guys, and welcome to this week's episode of All Hands. I am actually giving you an update here from on site at the actual new warehouse here for the new warehouse. This is our building, and we're partnered in with Exterior Global. Shout out to our friends over there. And we have been here all week getting ready for the past 2 weeks. Started shipping on Tuesday, seeing great volume so far, so definitely exciting stuff. And yeah, I've been definitely tied up here, so no t-shirt shout out today because I'm over here picking and packing orders, getting things done, and really getting our client up and running to continue to run this operation 7 days a week and do that e-commerce fulfillment and other services as well. So it's been great getting things up and running, having new space, being able to figure out the flow and all those different things. And I appreciate all the support from people who have been reaching out and congratulating us and things of that nature. And definitely a special shout out to Exterior Global, who has been the biggest supporter through this thing and partnering up with us to make it happen. So shout out to Mickey and Rodney over there especially. Thank you for the help and assistance in this. Definitely this week we had some interesting podcasts. On Monday we had Kevin Mireles, who was talking about sustainability and what it means to be lean and green, and why those two things rhyme. Definitely a great podcast if you're looking to learn more about how being sustainable and green within your operation makes sense to also not only do things better for the environment, but also for profitability as well and cost savings. And Wednesday's episode, we had Faison Sheikh of Avid Bots talking about automated cleaning, automated floor scrubbers they make actually, which is a great thing, I think. In the podcast, we talk about what it feels like, as Faison said, if your warehouse is a freaking dump. And it doesn't feel good if you're an employee, and it certainly doesn't reflect well on your business as well. So cleaning should be top of mind, and the fact that they're automating that is a great thing, I think, and very exciting thing. Who knows? We might need to get an Avid bot inside here. Floors are nice and new right now, but I like it crispy and shiny. Nothing better than a fresh warehouse floor. And then also this week, I had the chance to catch up with my friend Mike Oitzman over at the Mobile Robot Guide, and we did a podcast recording there where I was the guest on that, talking about warehousing automation and kind of the journey of creating the podcast and my love for warehousing and all those things. So that'll be out soon, I believe, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Do want to give a special shout out as well to my buddy Steve Lopez at Freight, who hooked us up to get us running with our daily line haul starting on Tuesday, kind of last minute over the weekend. We threw it together because the client wanted to turn it on, so we made it happen. And definitely thank you to Steve for helping us out with that. Also coming up for us in September, I'll be at ASCM Connect, and then in October I will be at CSCMP Edge with Motion 2 AI as well. We'll be doing live streaming there. ASCM Connect, I will be there as an ASCM chapter president, actually. So I'll be there on official presidential duty, I guess you could say. But definitely looking to network, connect, and learn there as well. Just remember, if you have any questions about ASCM, you can reach out to me, and our chapter could definitely help you out if you're interested in education or anything like that. Additionally, what else is going on? Yes, if you noticed, I did get new glasses. Thank you for noticing that. All right, so let's do a quick safety tip here. I got you. We are in the yard. So within the yard, we want to make sure that we have full visibility all the time as a pedestrian in the yard, especially a busy yard with a lot of traffic that's going on. So we want to make sure when we're out here, I'm violating the safety rule right now, but there's nothing going on. As you can see, we're empty out here. You want to have a reflective vest on. You want to be able to be aware of your surroundings and also be communicating to internally, letting people know that you're out there, having the building aware that someone is in the yard, whether that's at the check-in gate or whether it's on the dock, whatever the case may be. Looks like we got some air freight there potentially. We also have a runway here. Just kidding. Also on the yard too, you want to make sure when your trailers come in that you're chocking those wheels so the trailer cannot have any movement when forklifts are going in and out of them or being loaded or anything like that. So definitely want to make sure that you're super safe out here. And there's a lot of technologies too, I think, that are addressing this. We had JZT from Power Chalk that is addressing the chalk situation, and there's also a lot of great companies out there like Outrider, who's doing autonomous yard vehicles, which really reduces the number of people that need to go in the yard, which I think is really important. So that's the safety tip for this week. If you have a great safety tip and you want to share it, we want to hear it. So definitely reach out. We want to get you on here. We want to share everybody's safety tip. I think, creating that safety awareness from all different experiences and industries is a great thing. So thanks for joining All Hands this week. Our main segment here is with Timur. We're going to talk about parcel carrier diversification and some reactions to the non-UPS strike, no UPS strike. So good news, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, but also what does that mean you should do as a shipper now. So definitely check us out on all platforms, podcast wise, and we'll give you more updates here from the actual new warehouse and the new warehouse itself. So thanks all for following along. All right, I'm joined here by Timur Eligulashvili. I've been practicing trying to say that name for like 5 days now, so I think I did okay. I think I got it now.
So we're gonna
Thank you. So we're going to welcome him to the show here. He is with Logistics Remix, and he helps people figure out the right solutions for their logistics from a carrier parcel perspective. And we're going to talk a little bit about kind of reactions to the not UPS strike and some of that buildup as well. And what shippers should be thinking about in terms of contingency planning if something like that were to happen, and just kind of overall in general how to make sure that that parcel side is covered no matter what might happen with the carriers that you work with or other things that happen that we may not be prepared for. So welcome to the show. How are you today?
Doing wonderful. How are you, Kevin?
I'm well. We just opened our new 3PL site, so a little crazy, but I'm here now with you, so it's good to connect, definitely. So why don't you tell us,
Congrats.
I guess, thank you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of your reaction to UPS not striking? I mean, there certainly was like a lot of build up about, are they going to strike? Are they not going to strike? What's going to happen? And we know at this point now, like, there's no strike. So tell us kind of your reaction. Are you surprised, or is this what you expected?
Yeah, well, it's I think it's a positive thing that there's a deal on the table and there's not going to be a strike. To put things in perspective, when you zoom out, UPS handles about a quarter, delivers about a quarter of the packages in the United States.
Right.
So it's a rough number, but it's a lot of packages. And so when you think about that large volume that they're handling today, if there was going to be a strike, and what would happen to those packages? What would happen to packages that need to be delivered to hospitals and healthcare and manufacturing lines that could potentially shut down if they don't receive certain parts? So it could have really been a major crisis in the industry, not only in the parcel industry, but across many other industries, and it would affect a lot of the economies. And so I think there's a great sense of relief just across the industry and with retailers and 3PLs and shippers that I speak with. And I had several conversations the week that they announced the deal. And that was just a great sense of relief that there won't be a strike. There's a tentative deal on the table, and we're moving forward. So I think it was touch and go there for a second, right? Everyone was definitely getting anxious, and I think slightly concerned as
Yeah.
we got closer to the deadline. Um, because if you recall, I mean, these negotiations started months ago, right?
Right.
It wasn't a they didn't start that Tuesday when the deal was struck. They started months ago, and so I think we got really close. And one thing you have to think about with UPS is they don't deliver everything next day, right? There's a lot of packages that could take 3, 4, 5 or more days to deliver across country if they're shipping ground. And so if you're putting a package in the network, let's say on a Wednesday, and there's a strike on Monday, that package gets stuck, and no one wanted that. So we were really, really close. It wasn't just leading up to that Monday that people were worried about. It was about the packages they were going to ship that Tuesday and Wednesday that they started getting worried about. So ultimately, good thing I think for everyone, I think we can, all move on from here and keep moving ahead.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it definitely a good thing that, obviously that didn't happen. And like you said, it's just so many packages that could have potentially been in limbo in some way. And, it's a lot of, money for consumers that are potentially floating out there, businesses probably, getting inundated with requests for refunds and things like that, just a lot of moving parts that could have potentially gone wrong. So, but like you said, these talks have been going on for a couple months now, and it's something that was kind of impending. But still, even though there's been this time for shippers to figure out maybe alternative plans just in case it were to happen, or have contingency plans in place, like you said, there's multiple people that it's a big relief, right? So, I mean, in that sense, like that kind of tells me a little bit that, like, hey, like, shippers maybe need to have more of contingency plans. Like, they're putting their eggs or their parcels, so to speak, all in one basket, right? With UPS. So, tell us a little bit about, what, even though the strike did not happen, right? And we're okay if people are, very heavily reliant on UPS. They're in an okay spot now. But what should this be bringing up for shippers, and what should this really trigger for them to start thinking about, in terms of like a contingency plan, long term planning, in case something like this were to happen, or something else were to happen?
Yeah, and you said it right. I mean, it's putting your eggs in one basket, and that creates a very risky situation for your business and for your customers. And so I think there's kind of a more of a wide spectrum here, right? So you've got shippers and what's called retailers and 3PLs that had already diversified their carrier network, and they've created some contingency by diversifying their carrier network. They've added more capacity. They've got multiple carriers that can handle their packages to their most important markets. And those shippers actually, in a way, were feeling pretty good, right? I mean, they weren't feeling great because, as you know, if UPS can't handle the packages, a quarter of the packages have to go somewhere else, and networks could get clogged up. But they were feeling pretty good because they had options, right?
Hmm.
They weren't sitting there thinking, okay, I can't do anything here. But then on the other end of the spectrum, there were retailers, 3PLs, maybe B2B e-commerce businesses, or just general, wholesalers, distributors that were concerned, right? Because they were single sourced, right? So UPS was their only carrier that they were doing business with. Whenever they had to ship a package, it was going to be delivered by UPS. And so when that's not an option anymore, you have no option. And now you've got a couple of weeks to put together a plan, and that became a challenge. And so I think you had boardrooms, you had executive teams, CEOs of companies that all of a sudden woke up to this notion that we're not diversified,
Yeah.
right? We've got a risk. We've got an inherent risk by being single sourced with one carrier. What should we be doing about this? And oh, and by the way, even if this ends up being not a strike and we can continue as usual, uh, well, that that still doesn't make me feel good, right? Because there's going to be times when things get disrupted. I mean, one of the biggest disruptions we got, in the last couple of years, with especially with the pandemic, right, was their e-commerce just blew up. It grew, it was growing at a pace exceeding 50%, and so UPS and both UPS and FedEx and the national carriers just couldn't handle all the packages. And so a lot of alternative and regional carriers stepped in to handle the load and and deliver. And so I think there's a lot of CEOs right now across the country that are looking at their position and thinking about, well, that they're still, they're relieved, but they're still in a situation where they're single source. So they have to be thinking about not being in this situation ever again. And the only way not to be in this situation ever again is to add additional capacity, add redundancy, diversify the carrier network so that should this happen at any other point in time, especially with peak season, as you know, the holiday season's coming up. When I
Right.
say coming up, we're in August, but
Yeah.
for the last mile
Yeah. If
delivery,
you haven't planned for it yet, it's
people in
getting
the
late.
last mile delivery, this is when we start. If you already haven't started planning for peak season, you're probably behind. But this is when we start planning for the holiday season, because that's when demand really kicks up, and we're going to need all the capacity we can get to get these packages and holiday gifts delivered.
Yeah, definitely, and I totally agree with you. I mean, I think diversification is definitely the way to go, and certainly, we are seeing like so many options in the market to pop up, and people are trying to disrupt the way things work, and regional players are getting more market share and things like that. But you talked about kind of the executives sitting in the boardroom and things like that, and what about like the small to medium size shippers that maybe they don't even have a boardroom, right? So like, how do they go about trying to diversify in that way?
Yeah, so that becomes a challenge. I mean, the for the small and medium sized shippers, especially the small. Let's talk about the small, right? I just started.
Sure.
I started a shop. Let's call it a Shopify store, and I'm selling a really cool item, and it's selling really well, and I'm growing my business. I'm only using UPS at this time, right, or any single carrier. Those are typically the companies that need to start thinking about, as they grow, how can they avert these risks. And
Mm,
so for them, what I would say is diversify doesn't have to be, I need to add 10 carriers tomorrow, right? Yes, you mentioned it. I mean, there's a lot of really good regional carriers out there. There's a lot of good alternative options that can provide the line haul into the regional carrier network so that you don't have to ship it and inject it into the regional carrier. And what I mean there is, take a step back. If I'm based in Los Angeles and I've got customers in Chicago, and I want to use a regional carrier in Chicago, well, I'm a small business and I got to figure out how to get those few packages to Chicago. That gets really hard. That gets really expensive because that line haul cost could really add up.
yeah.
And so I don't have economies of scale, right? I don't have economies of scale of a large 3PL or a large retailer where they can just put together a truckload and bring it into Chicago, a truckload of packages, bring it into Chicago and inject it into the regional carrier network. So how do I create redundancy? How do I diversify my carrier network? The good news is there are companies that offer the service that these small businesses can leverage. There are companies that are popping up that have provided that provide both the pickup, they provide that line haul, that middle mile, and then inject it into that regional carrier network. So you don't have to worry about building your own regional carrier network. So um, for the small shipper, there are options. 5, 6, 7 years ago, those options didn't exist. You got to kind of
Yeah.
build this network yourself. But the good news today is there are options, and there are companies that are willing to that have the network that can offer it to any small shipper. So I think today, any small shipper that's thinking about diversifying their carrier network, they typically will start with diversifying between the nationals. But if they
Hmm.
really want to leverage the regional carriers across the United States, yeah, they've either got to inject into their region, or they can partner with one of these companies that's already providing a soup to nuts, a full scale solution.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's interesting too that you pointed out that, five, 6, 7 years ago, there's these options like weren't available. But it's really interesting to see in the last couple of years. I think just all around, like in the industry, these companies, startups coming in that are really trying to disrupt things and cater to that smaller shipper and medium sized shipper, like you said, because there's been such an explosion in e-commerce, which I think it's a great thing. So there's a lot of options out there for people to be able to diversify and do those different things. So really interesting point there, and definitely very insightful. So when we look at that, I mean, when you start diversifying and you're starting to look at agreements with other carriers and other partners and things like that. You had a post on LinkedIn recently, which caught my attention. They were talking about something called BATNA, and how that should be in your agreement. So tell us a little bit about, I guess, first, what is BATNA, and why is that important for an agreement and for the shipper to make sure it's in there?
Yeah, no, and hey, thanks for giving me a follow on LinkedIn. I appreciate it. I follow your stuff, and it's
Yeah, yeah.
really good. So the BATNA is really stands for Best Alternative to No Agreement, and it's a concept in negotiation. I learned back from school, from negotiations class that I took, and it really stuck with me. And what this, to kind of give an example of this concept, just so everyone can kind of wrap their heads around it, if you're selling a house and you set a list price and you get an offer at 10% below that list price and you get no other offers, well, now you've got to make a decision. Do I how badly do I need to sell this house?
Yeah.
What are my options? What are my choices? So you're really, as a seller at that point, coming from a position of weakness in the negotiation because you have no alternatives. But if you're selling a house and you get an offer that's 10% below, and then you get 10 other offers on that
Right.
house that are either at list price or higher, well, now you've got options, right? So you gotta know what options you have, and that can help you negotiate, and have strength in the negotiation, right? So if you have alternatives, and that's what BATNA is all about, finding those alternatives. So how do I apply this to small parcel? Well, I mean, look at what's happening. We just talked about that there's no strike at UPS. A deal was reached, and the deal was reached, and everyone's relieved. But if you read the details, I think it was stated that the deal, was a $30 billion economic deal. That's a pretty hefty amount. So what? So who's going to pay for that, right? Obviously, UPS has to pay for it because they agreed to it. But then, is that going to ultimately
Where
end
do they
up
get the
on
money?
the shipper, on that small business that you mentioned, right? That's trying to build up, that's trying to build and provide for their, the owner that's trying to build, provide for the family, or that retailer that's trying to, continue to show profitability to their stakeholders. And so that $30 billion is gonna, when you look at it, I don't think there's any way around it, right? There's the cost to ship something is going up. Um, I mean, if you look at the last a couple of years, we had a 5.9% general rate increase in parcel shipping the year prior to this one. This year was a 6.9% increase by the national carriers. So I think I don't see a case yet for rates coming down, right? I mean, the only thing we can see is, well, if the cost to deliver a package is going up, we would think that cost is going to get passed down to the shippers. And so this will take some time to play out. I think we'll see it play out over the next 6 months to a year. But as a retailer, as a 3PL, as a company that uses that partners with a parcel delivery provider and wants to not spend so much right on shipping and wants to ensure that they keep their costs low, if they have no alternatives, which is coming back to this concept of the BATNA, if they have no alternatives and they get a rate increase, uh, a, a rate increase from their carrier that they're using, well, what option do they have? And
Yeah.
so if you're using a national and you're single source and the carrier comes to you and says, we're going to increase your rate by X, yes, you can negotiate for sure, but you're going to negotiate from a point of weakness rather than a position of strength
Hmm.
if you have alternatives. And the good news is there are alternatives. So I would just tell your audience, that concept, the BATNA concept, I love it. It's stuck with me. Not a lot of things have stuck with me since college, but this
Yeah.
but this one definitely did.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's a great thing because basically you're talking from do you have leverage or do you not have leverage basically to kind of go with. So I think it's a great thing, and obviously if you're trying to diversify, you want to you may not go with five options for carriers, but if you get those five options, then you can kind of shop those rates a little bit and be able to leverage them, which I think is
That's
a
right.
really good
Well,
tip there from you.
yeah, let me touch on that point for a second, though.
Sure.
Just what you said, the options, 5 or 10. I think, in order to be diversified, like to truly say, hey, I have a diversified carrier network,
Mhm.
you have to have at least two, right? So for either every zip code or the majority of zip codes in the population, you have to have at least two options, right? Otherwise, you have no alternatives. Now, for some retailers, some shippers, 3PLs, that could end up being upwards of 10, right? There's a lot of really good regional carriers out there. And so if you have the right technology, if you have the right operation, and maybe facilities distributed throughout the country, you can really set up a really nice diversified carrier network that meets your company's goals. But there's no right number for to show that you have a diversified carrier network. I also don't think diversifying the carrier network is just a set it and forget it kind of exercise. As you mentioned, there's new companies popping on the market. There's companies expanding their region. So we should always be thinking about and talking to companies that are growing, that are providing good service that you're hearing about, and considering how they could help your company. Right? There's really great options, and when you add another carrier, don't just set it and forget it. Just think about what else could I be doing, because I talk to shippers all the time, and there are when they start thinking about their strategy, they really they want to talk to a lot of people. Like they want to talk, they want to learn, and the only way to do that is to get out there and have the conversations and see who the players are. Because without that, without lifting that rug and understanding who what they are, where they serve, what they can offer your company, it's hard to know whether you're going in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really great insight and definitely great points there as well. Timur, before we kind of close out here, your company Logistics Remix, kind of this is kind of what you guys do, right? You help people diversify, find the right carriers, and have a good logistics plan. So tell us real quick, kind of, I guess, what you guys do and how to get in touch with you if people are looking for help with this kind of problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Logistics Remix, we help retailers and 3PLs bring on new carriers and diversify their carrier network. And we also partner with regional carriers across the country to help them bring on new business that fits well into their network and their model. And so, if anyone is interested in exploring regional carriers, learning more about the market, just getting some ideas or uh, looking for introductions, looking for insights, please reach out. Go to my website. It's logisticsremix.com. You can learn more about the company and then reach out to me. Oh, and also I wanted to let people know that if they're probably going to see this on LinkedIn, right? So
Sure.
give us both a follow if you're not already following us, because I think, by the way, Kevin, I think your content's really great, and thank you for what you do for
Thank you.
this industry and to elevate the industry and the companies that are providing really good service and just need to get more of their brand out there.
Well, thank you for that. And you beat me to it. I was going to say to follow him on LinkedIn. He's a good follow, definitely. As I mentioned, we're talking about that Bandit thing, but he has a lot of great posts there in as well. So definitely check that out. And we'll definitely put that info here. It's in the description as well. So you can find Logistics Remix, and I'll throw it over in the comments section too. So
Thank you so much for joining me today on this week's episode of All Hands.